Welcome to Skktv Uganda. My name is Hilary Marion and you are watching Insight 360 News. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Makarios Bakery and Hills and Bands, for funding us and making sure we're still on air. Has the Bank of Uganda break-in reignited old scandals? PFF rejects sovereignty bill as threat to freedom. Mukono drivers protest rising fuel prices. The latest break-in at the Bank of Uganda has revived long-standing concerns over security, accountability, and internal controls at Uganda's central bank.
This is not the first time the central bank has found itself at the center of controversy. In recent years, the Bank of Uganda has repeatedly faced scrutiny over governance and financial oversight from the controversial 2016 takeover and sale of Crane Bank, which sparked years of legal and public backlash, to the more recent 60 billion shillings Ministry of Finance payment fraud processed through Bank of Uganda systems, now before court. While the current incident is a physical security breach rather than a financial scandal, it adds to a growing list of controversies that have repeatedly raised questions about how secure and accountable the court's top financial institutions really is. Skktv, Sylvia Bethel.
Leaders of the People's Front for Freedom, PFF, have rejected the proposed protection for the sovereignty bill, describing it as a threat to civil liberties, press freedom, and political expression in Uganda. Let's have more.
Speaking at their Katanga Road offices in Kampala, PFF Deputy President Dr. Lulu Mebaiga said the bill would criminalize civic engagement, restrict free expression, and impose harsh penalties on individuals and organizations. He further urged Parliament to withdraw the bill, warning that it risks shrinking democratic space, and called on President Yoweri Museveni not to assent to it, saying it could be used to punish Ugandans exercising their constitutional rights.
Baliganye ate siri eryoka erisoose alina obuvunaanyizibwa obwo olina obuyinza obwo okukikola kubanga kimuswaza ne bw'olaba nga akalambidde naye agamba nti nze nabagambye bana abaweereza ssente nga bavujjirira groups zatayogeddeko naye ffe tuba tumanyi awali egundi omugenge tebafunyizaawo ki ngalo ffe tuba tumanyi omutima gwayogereramu ebintu yensonga lwaki tugamba sekanyolya gwe muwanvu tubuulire ebyekibuga.
Ligaji Wandino Dorothy reporting for Insight 360.
Brigadier General Geoffrey K.M. Wanguzi, Dr. Dick Kamuganga, and Edward Katende have addressed the media at Uganda Media Center on transforming Uganda's agriculture through productivity, value addition, and improved livelihood.
Mwanguzi said all Ugandans can benefit from wealth creation programs through active participation.
Wealth creation mazemo emyaka 12 so buli kyembabuuza nkibabuuza mu experience eyo mwekolemu omulimu wajja oyagala okukolera kyoyagala okukola then we link you up.
Kamuga welcomed government support and model farmer initiatives, while Katende warned that declining youth interest threatened food security.
We are upgrading the ground as an agricultural transformation center for the Busoga region. Busoga region has a problem of incidence of poverty. So that coordination center will do a leading role in this.
Highlighting parish development model training and youth agriculture programs.
We have been in discussion with our mother ministry. I think it's a few local governments. I'm glad that through this coordination, the local governments have come on board. The issue has Jinja was kind enough, Jinja City, before then to provide the ground. So the next thing is we will be putting speed in this acquisition of land, whereby Jinja will be deprecated in the 18 regions, sub-regions across the country.
Reporting for Skktv Insight 360 News, I'm Priska Nawaka.
Transport operators in Mukono, especially at Katosi, have expressed growing concern over the continuous rise in fuel prices, which has pushed petrol costs at various stations. The situation has disrupted transport services and business activities in the area, with drivers warning of worsening conditions if prices continue to rise unchecked.
Drivers and boda operators along the Katosimbale route have appealed to government to intervene and stabilize fuel prices, saying the cost of fuel is now unbearable and affects both livelihoods and passenger fares.
Tusaba gavumenti etuyambe wadde yayongerako ku mafuta esiringi ebibiri naye ate si bye biduumuuza bbeeyi y'amafuta okutuuka musingi kakaaga kasanvu.
Eteese ku ekyo amafuta gabeerenga price eri constant nti bw'oganywa embale bw'oganywawa e Kampala.
Some fuel station attendants blame the international conflicts for the increase now between 7,000 Ugandan shillings and 8,000 Ugandan shillings per litre, while operators have threatened to park their vehicles if fares are not adjusted, noting that passengers are resisting fare increments despite rising operational costs.
Katosi filling station, amafuta petrol tumtunda kakaga bitano, diesel 5,449, then paraffin 1,500.
Reporting for Skktv Uganda, Inside 360 News, I am Morena Kovura.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's swearing-in are in high gear ahead of the May 12th ceremony at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds in Kampala. Officials say that the inauguration will mark the start of Museveni's 7th term, with government describing it as a major national event expected to attract regional and international dignitaries.
According to Mile Babide Babalanda, the Minister for Presidents at the Media Center, the swearing-in ceremony is scheduled for Tuesday, May 12th, 2026 at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds under the theme Protecting the Gains, making a qualitative leap into high middle income status.
Of the President-elect of the Republic of Uganda 2026-2031, His Excellency General Retired Yoweri Kaguta Museveni will take place on the 12th of May 2026.
More than 50 heads of state and government officials have confirmed attendance, underlining the scale of the event and the diplomatic significance attached to the ceremony.
Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, with his political colleagues, decided to go to the bush to fight the illegitimate regime. During the guerrilla war, the National Resistance Council of the National Resistance Movement, together with the High Command under the chairmanship of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, developed the 10-point program of which the restoration of meaningful and people-centered democracy was the first and foremost commitment to the people of Uganda.
She further stresses the ceremony will not only mark the constitutional transfer into a new term, but also set the tone for government priorities in the next administration. Reporting for Skktv Uganda, Inside 360 News, I am Morena Kovura.
The ceasefire between Iran, the United States, and Israel remains in place tonight, but tensions are rising fast in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has warned that any unauthorized U.S. military movement in the Gulf will be treated as a violation of the truce. The warning follows reports of a fresh naval confrontation, raising fears the travel ceasefire could quickly collapse. Thank you for watching. Today, in our Inside 360 analysis, we're going to look at how the US, Israel, and Iran conflict could drive global inflation. Welcome to Inside 360 analysis. And as always, I'm Hilary Marion, and today I'm here with Mr. Ismail. He's going to talk with me more about how the conflict with US, Iran, and Israel is possibly going to drive global inflation. Welcome, Mr. Ismail.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me, Oris.
Of course, we love your analysis. How is the Iran, US, and Israel conflict affecting global inflation and fuel prices, in your opinion?
leaving alone the military approach, which destabilized the economy. You look at the blockade now.
Yes.
The US blockaded a lot of ports of Iran, meaning the movement of products from Middle East to the world market has been slowed or has been denied. Again, the movement of products from the rest of the world going to the Middle East is no longer being done, which means the transaction is going to be felt at the global market. A justification that the global inflation or deflation could be arise too. It could be even be greater than the other one of the global recession of the 1940s during the Second World War, and that of the 1917 during the First World War. We are likely to experience a recession after 2 to 3 months if the war is not handled very well.
Really? Wow, that would be very unfortunate.
So right now, the movement of fuel from the Gulf nations is no longer moving to the world market. A justification that inflation is going to be seen.
Wow.
And of course, the drop of a dollar is going to be overseen.
How about the pound? Will the pound lose value?
When we look at the dynamics of money, we look at the product, that is product analysis.
Yes.
When you look at the products, what does the US have to put on the market? Among other reasons why US is in this war, is not to fight for wealth, but protection of a dollar vis-a-vis yuan of China, leaving alone the pound.
Okay, that's so interesting. And could tensions in the Strait of Hormuz trigger another worldwide cost of living crisis?
When you look at the cost of living today, it has risen.
Yes.
When you go to the US, the cost of living is high compared to the last 1 year.
Yes.
When you come out today is May. When you compare it to the May of last year, you would find drastically a change in the economy of the US. So when you look at the US, then you ask yourself, the poorest country in the world is South Sudan.
Okay.
So if the US is feeling the pinch, how about South Sudan?
Right.
How about Uganda?
Yes.
How about the rest of the world?
Yeah.
Because once you click on the economy of the United States of America, then the rest of the world will sneeze. You remember that, say, during the Napoleon War, when Europe sneezes, the rest of the world will feel the sneeze. So once you feel any movement in economy in the United States of America, the rest of the world feels the pain.
They feel it. They feel it even worse than the US.
Definitely, because there is a professor in the United States of America who says that America has never in history experienced any war apart from the American War of Independence.
Okay.
The rest has not felt anything. But imagine now it is creating the world impact in terms of war.
Yes.
Then America is not feeling it, the rest of the world is feeling it. America caused during the Second World War in Japan, America paid the reparation cost to Japan. When you talk about reparation, this is the cost helping the other country to boost their economy.
Right.
America has been doing it for the rest of the world after the wars. This is why even Iran is trying to put into, when you go in the agreement, in the ceasefire, it is putting there the costs.
Yes.
Who is going to pay the damages of the Iranians?
Yeah.
Now, if they pay the damages in the war of the Iranians, how about in UAE? How about in Israel? How about in Saudi Arabia, Qatar? Among those countries, Bahrain, where which were they bombed, which Iran bombed. So any cost, any penny which is wasted in the war, it means it's having a global impact.
Right.
That's inflation again. Those are your questions.
Yes. And how exposed are developing economies to rising oil, transport, and food prices from this conflict?
When you talk about that question, when you look at that question, you definitely look at Europe.
Right.
Europe and the Scandinavian countries have failed the impact of the war daily.
Right.
When you go to Germany, of course the cost of living is changing. You go to Britain, though they are not mentioning it deeply, but they are feeling the global impact when it comes to war. The fuel, because of course they are facing the problem of Russia.
Right.
Russia, Ukraine, whereby they had invested a lot of money in the war. The flow of fuel from Russia and Ukraine was not flowing as it used to be. The cost of fertilizers already Ukraine was facing it, whereby the harvest this in the last 2 years of 1 year has not been as it was before. Now imagine now the fertilizers are not flowing because of the blockage of the Hormuz, Strait of Hormuz. Then the pitch of fertilizers and fuel across the globe is being failed. What does it create now? They are creating what we call black market.
Okay.
When you talk about black market, it means the illegality of trade.
Okay.
Now, where does Iran sell its product? Of course, Iran has been facing sanctions from US for the last 47 years,
right,
which means they have been dealing in a black market. They have been trading on black market, which means when they increased the US increased the blockade, it means there is a lot of fuel which is on the black market. Pakistan opened it and they see no problem, and even there is a lot of goods which are being transited in Turkey, which means the world cannot rely on black market.
Right.
What does it mean when you want to make it look professional? It's making sure that the cessation of hostility agreement or the ceasefire is reached at as soon as possible.
Right. Okay. And are central banks now facing a new inflation threat, just as economies were beginning to stabilize?
That's a good question. Banks, banks across the world, when there is war, they happen to benefit a lot. Black dollars,
okay,
black yens or whatever.
Right.
You realize that when there is war, there is the trade in arms,
okay,
or arms dealers increase a lot, which means there is a lot of transactions from banks that is illicit money, and that is being traded within. There is also another scholar which said during the other wars, America was printing more dollars.
Right.
But now there is no way American can print fuel.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Which means if America cannot inject black dollars in the market, which is illicit money,
okay,
then the fuel, what should America do to the fuel? So which means market, there is a lot of these bitcoins,
yes,
these online transactions in terms of money. We call it e-monies.
E-money?
Yeah, e-money.
Okay.
It is being hyped now, which means there are some few sections within the public which are benefiting from this e-money.
Okay.
A research which was conducted in the United States of America recently proved that Trump's account are gaining momentum, by $2 billion.
Right.
Which means they have benefited out a lot in this war.
Okay.
Yeah, when we look at Jared Kushner and David Trump, they're always in the middle of negotiations, which means they could be benefiting more than America.
That's so interesting. And lastly, if the ceasefire collapses, how severe could the global economic shock become?
When you look at last night or last evening, there was also a lot of chaos. It is claimed that Iran shot South Korean ship, whereas America also claims that it shot down 6 ships of Iran, which means the war is on the brink of starting. What happened during the first 12 days of war? There was an economic pitch. What happened in these 60 days of war? There was a lot of pitch. It has made the fuel in the US rise from $2.5 to $5, to approximately $5. That means the economy of the world is being influenced in the war. Now imagine the 12 days of war took 6 months to begin again. Now the 60 days, it has not yet elapsed again. Now you start again with an everlasting war. That means the world is in a franchise of wars. That means global economic recession brought about by the war. The reasons as to why they had to rush into negotiations to see that there is no reoccurrence of the instability in terms of currency or economy. But now it looks like we are going back to the war. If the test goes as it was yesterday, the war is going to start again.
Wow.
In a short while.
Doesn't happen.
There's no prayers happen like you pray. But God listens to all sides.
Right.
Those ones who would wish to go in the war and those ones who would not wish to go in the war. But now the common sense plays the roles. Now if we fight, where do you benefit? Now those ones who are benefiting in the war, they say we continue. Whereas those ones who are saying no, we don't need any more bloodshed and the economic repercussion, we need to be downplayed. Also those ones are there. So we need to also to pray as well as we force these people who needs to go in the negotiations, push that direction. So those two ways needs to be looked at: the military side and the peace deals. We need to go to peace deals, I think. Hopefully something is coming to an end. Hopefully there's a solution that's going to come up. But I want to thank you so much for coming on Inside 360 News. As always, your analysis is really important and really valuable to us. You've been watching Skktv Uganda, Inside 360 News, and I'm your anchor, Hilary Marion. And please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe on our channel. And we will see you next time. Thank you for watching.